All right. I guess it's time to start. We're all here. Thank you for joining us at an earlier time than normal. We wanted to accommodate the time difference with Norway, where our esteemed guest resides, to Eric Larsen. I'm trying to say it right. Okay. And so we are really pleased to bring you another webinar, another presentation and discussion with Eric, because it's unique to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, about Norwegian prison practices. And so our webinar today is called Transplanting Norwegian Prison Practices, How Their Success Could Transform the U.S. System. I'm Katerina Spinaris, Desert Waters Executive Director and Founder. Just a little bit about Desert Waters. It's a nonprofit established in Colorado 22 years ago. Our mission is to improve the well-being of corrections and other public safety professionals through training, consulting, and other essential resources to foster resilience, mental health, and overall wellness in these challenging professions. And please visit us at desertwaters.com to see more about what we offer, what we do, free services, free products, and follow us also on LinkedIn and Facebook. Our guest today, as I said, is Tor Erik Larsen, president of the KY Correctional Officers Union in Norway, who is once again very kindly joining us from Oslo, Norway. So, Tor Erik, would you be willing to introduce yourself to us, please, so that they hear directly from you about who you are?
Yes, thank you, Katarina, and thank you for inviting me to do this. My name is Tor Erik Larsen. I am the president of the Union of Norwegian Correctional Service Employees. That's a long name, so the Norwegian name is just Kriminalomsorgens Yrkesforbund, which is the KY shorted version. I am a correctional officer. I started working in corrections 25 years ago. And for the last 6 years, I've been the union president here. So we're going to talk a bit about the different elements of the Norwegian model. Both the things you may have heard of about how, well, like contact officers and stuff like that, but also the collaboration between the unions and management.
Yes, and I want to thank Greg, especially Greg Morton, for bringing up that topic, because it's a very important topic and we don't want to forget it. So thank you again for joining us. It's really, I see today as a day of hope, that little things can be done and even bigger things can be done that can move the needle in a more positive direction in corrections, which is desperately, as you know, desperately needed. And the big question might be, to begin with, like, do you think anything can be transplanted? Can we do that given the difference in culture, size of population, size of everything, facilities? What would you say about that, Eric? Like, can we do anything about making it better according to your pattern?
Well, if you think transplanting a Norwegian model into the U.S. Like tomorrow, I don't think that it's going to be a problem. If you take, I work in one of the biggest prisons in Norway, which is a tiny little prison by U.S. standards, but it's actually closing down now. But if I move that prison to the U.S. and open it tomorrow and run it like a Norwegian model prison, I would fail epically. But there are a lot of things in the Norwegian model that can be used as inspiration, where you can look at how can we do this, knowing our culture, knowing our welfare system, stuff like that. And you can start doing like little things. Just like we had a talk before now, and you said that when inmates in the Denver jail have visitations from their children, they will be allowed to wear their own clothes. So
Actually, to own with their own clothes. I think they have clothes that were
no, but
donated.
normal
Yes,
clothes,
normal
not like
street clothes. Right.
prison uniforms
Right,
style
for
clothes.
in-person visits, right, which is a
Yeah.
teeny step, but really, what does it mean to you? I mean, I was delighted to hear that. What does it mean to you from a Norwegian perspective? What are we accomplishing by doing that, by having
Well,
them wear their own clothes? I mean, street clothes.
yeah, you remove some of the stigma. If you're dressed up in a uniform, it kind of sends the message to everybody around you that you're less of a human. Maybe not to the officers or the staff at a prison, but to the inmate himself. It's definitely a dehumanizing
Right.
effect.
Right. And to the child, seeing their dad or their mom
Oh,
in a
that's
jumpsuit
trauma.
and orange, absolutely. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine if I was that 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and so a parent, it would kind of take my breath away in a really bad way. So just one teeny step like that can build so much goodwill on both sides and reduce unnecessary damage um, without having, without humiliating. And I wanted to ask you to go through what you guys do in Norway when people do wear their own clothes unless they don't have any. So tell us the procedure. Just I know I'm jumping ahead, but tell us the procedure that you guys go through. That you're not just naively say, "Oh, sure, bring your clothes." What do you guys do? The process to secure the facility, but still have people have their own clothes or their
Yeah.
own stuff. What do you guys do? What's the process of that?
Yeah, so when we process a new arrival to the into the facility, they will have to strip down and they'll be like just a normal procedure. We'll strip them down. We'll give them some red jumpsuits or whatever, and we'll have dogs come in, sniff their clothes. We'll check their clothes. Everything goes in the washer, and then they'll get their clothes 3 4 days later. So the initial period we do the uniforming as well, but that's because, well, secure prison is
Mm-hmm.
about balance, right? So it's about balance. You need security, but you also need something. You need to do something with the inmates. In Norway, our job is to kind of rehabilitate and take people back to society. So we need to make sure that they understand that they're humans and they have a worth just by being human. So we try to do everything, and we have a principle. I know you heard this before, Katarina. It's called the
Mm-hmm.
principle of normality. We want every day on the inside to be as close as a normal day on the outside, with some kind of security measures.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and in addition, it's the officers and the staff of the prison. They are there the whole time, and we correct unwanted behavior. That's my primary job. And I can correct it by saying, no, don't do that. If they listen, fine. If they don't listen, we have other means of correcting, which is not like violence or anything. But what will happen is that you will get a report, and the report will be processed, and you lose some of your privileges.
Mm. So it's about negative reinforcement, basically. Like if you do this, it's going to cost you.
Yeah,
And you have like an escalation process. Like if that doesn't work, then you have another tool and
yeah.
another tool, but you don't go 0 to 100 right away. Like take them down and
No, think about
whatever.
it as just a staircase.
Mm-hmm.
You just walk. We move up one step every time.
Okay. All right. So, and that takes a lot of self-control and presence of mind of the for the officer and to be able to manage all that, especially if they have more than one incident going on. But that's where the staffing comes in. So let's talk a little bit about what staff selection, because I sent you a list of things that stuck with me when I had the privilege to be invited by One Voice United. Thanks again, One Voice, to go to Norway and spend a week with you guys there and study the system. So there were things that elements, like to me, it was like ingredients to bake a cake. So I collected some of those ingredients. I have 17 of them here. and and one of them was staff selection. I remember when we went to the academy, we were told, and correct me if I was wrong, that you guys, when you interview people, you're looking for people who have more of a helper motive than a controlled, heavy duty cop disciplinarian motive. Is that correct? Or is it obviously a balance? You need a balance of the two, but that
Yeah.
you're looking for a helper motivation.
What we're looking for is people understanding that you need that balance, that you need to be both be motivated by being a helper, but you also have to be like a disciplinarian. The role of correctional officer is it has a lot of different hats. So you need to keep the balance. And of course, we're looking for people with empathy, which is also dangerous in corrections, because the higher your empathy, the more at risk you are for trauma when you're in a facility. But what I can say is that we started interviewing for new academy trainees. We started this week. So in August, 200 new trainees will start the academy. And what we'll do is that we'll do it. I think we have something around 17 days where we'll interview 440 people, I think. So we'll do like a 40 or 45-minute interview with each candidate. And we'll select the ones that kind of do the best, give the best impression, and have the best school papers and stuff like that. And they'll have a two-year training academy run, and then they'll go out and work as correctional officers.
Okay, so right there are two things to follow up with regarding what can we adopt and transplant. So one thing that you folks told us when we were in Norway is that the committee that interviews those candidates is composed of both a management and union personnel.
You can say that the training academy has their own staff that works solely on recruiting, and they're part of the interviews. And then it's I'm in the committee that decides who gets us a place at the academy or not. And in that capacity, I also interview. So the unions have some seats, and then we split the task. So we'll have like on any given day, we'll have like we do it in pairs. So we'll have one management and one union rep. They'll interview candidates together. You'll do like 5, 6, 7 candidates a day.
Wow.
And we'll have like probably between 5 and 10 pairings. So we'll have like, if we have 10, we'll do like between 60 and 70 interviews a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's thorough. You're trying to be as thorough as you can and look for
Yeah, so the process is, first you have to apply, of course, and then we do a selection process, and we to see who's qualified. First and foremost, we have to see if they're qualified to go to the academy, and qualification is like background check, stuff like that, and school papers. You have to have, like, I think you call it like a GEDs to go to the training academy in Norway.
Okay, and so you collaborate. The union collaborates. Management collaborates with the union and selecting people, and you're looking for people who have capacity for empathy that is hopefully genuine. even though, like you said, it cuts both ways, because the more you care, the more you can get affected, and the more you have to watch it and not to have it exploited, not to become sympathy. But then you mentioned your training. So some, and I know when in the United States we have such shortages in applicants, of course, standards have gotten lower in admission to jobs. I mean, people have told us that for quite a while now, and of course, lowering the age from 21 to 18. That's another question mark in terms of maturity and able to handle certain things. But certain practices can be adopted if they have not been already, like the capacity for caring and empathy, and not just want to exert power over somebody and control them. So, and you mentioned the staff training being 2 years at the academy, and I know part of that is also on the job training, going to the prisons.
Yeah, so the schooling is divided into four semesters. So the first semester, which is the first 6 months, you'll do like academy training and theory and stuff like that, and then you have 2 semesters where you're out working as a correctional officer, but you have a mentor, and you also do some school projects on the side. And then the last semester is school again, and then you have 1 year of service that you have to complete before you're finished. Because the
Okay.
academy is of course paid.
Yes. So
Yeah,
it's a
so you get
2 year. Go ahead.
no, so you get like not you don't get full pay when you're at the academy, but you get other people that go to school have student loans, but at us at our facility they get paid.
Wow. Which, of course, is a very luxury model for the United States to have a 2 year training, but you can see then how the standard increases. So if one can do it at the very least ongoing training in the US after they start working full time, that could make up for some of it. And from what I remember, as far as your curriculum, quite a bit of it had to do with more what we would call here like social work type
Yeah,
of
because
focus.
that's one of the hats you have as a correctional officer. You also help them filling out applications for housing. Yeah, quite often you have to try and reestablish the contact with children.
Oh,
So think about it, because if you have if not chosen, but you kind of fallen into a life of crime, you may have some substance abuse problems, stuff like that. So we call them low bearing fruits or something, because it's easy to identify problems, and it's hard work working on them, but it's the problems that are easy to identify you can work on first.
okay.
And we know that if during his stay, the stay with us, if somebody stops using drugs, or if they get back in contact with family or children or something, their life has a bit more stability when they go out than it had coming in.
Yes. So their
So
chances are better.
yeah, so we don't necessarily believe that if you have 1 year sentence, we're not going to totally rehabilitate and change that person. But if we can fix some of the things, it could also inspire the inmate to fix other things when he gets out, or it could make sure that he has something else to do when he gets out, uh, and it will then lead to him doing less criminal activity.
Yes. And so one way you're thinking, which makes total sense to me, is about the fact that small things add up, and
Yeah,
not to disregard or um, throw away small efforts. I mean, yeah, one thing I like to say is like, look at an ant. They take really small steps, but boy, they get places.
Yeah.
because they keep going. I mean, I like to say to people, take an ant step forward. Doesn't have to be big, just an ant step forward. And with a person who stops using something, and even if they replace it like with a lesser problem, like somebody gives up, and I've seen that, gives up alcohol or whatever, but they start overeating. I'd rather they overate for a while, and instead of killing themselves drinking too much alcohol. Um, some any step forward adds up. So you guys
Yeah.
capitalize on that, and you give
Yeah. So
people a lot of education. Go ahead. Go ahead.
just to try in Norwegian, there is a saying that like a lot of small streams
Hmm.
will turn into a big river.
Yes.
So if you kind of fix a lot of small things, they will go a different. They will be like more capable when they get out than they were coming in. So and maybe they'll come back in again, and then there's new stuff we can fix, and
Right.
eventually they won't come back.
Right. It's cumulative. It adds up.
Yeah.
Negative things add up. Positive things add up. Yeah, it's about having a plan and understanding the process and knowing it works, and hopefully sharing success stories among yourselves to say, wow, look at that. This guy, like somebody told me at the jail, she said, this guy came the first time he was here and got out, he got back like in about a week. The next time it took him 4 months to get back in trouble enough to get back in here. And that to them was progress.
Yeah, and just
The,
think about young inmates. A lot of
yeah.
them, they haven't matured enough to wanna quit crime.
Mm-hmm.
But every time they come through our facilities, we can plant new thoughts in their heads, kind of educate them and make them think. And eventually, they would want to quit, and we can help them.
Hopefully. Yes,
Yeah,
hopefully. And you maintain
most of
that
them will.
attitude. Yeah. So you have seen that.
Yeah, well, like 73% of our inmates don't come back the first 2 years.
Wow.
73%. That's just upside down of the US numbers.
Yes. 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 So we have the staff selection, very careful selection, staff training,
I
and
need to
then
say one thing about the staff selection and
yes,
stuff like that, because before you start selecting staff, you have to ask yourself the question: what are we looking for? And the other question is, who do we not want? Because those are the ideas. Before, if you know where you want to go, you have to decide what kind of vehicle you want to use to get there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So would you tell us a little bit about that? What are you looking for, and who do you not want?
Well, like I started saying, we want people with that balance. We want people uh, that know or understand that being a correctional officer is more than just opening and closing doors. Uh, it's not fighting all the time. We want we don't want to have the like action people that just want to go in there and be tough.
Mm-hmm.
There's always somebody tougher. Lesson one:
Yeah,
somebody's always tougher than you.
yeah,
So that's not important. We want people uh, that want to they want to contribute to, because what we produce is security for the society. And if we do a bad job, society pays the price. So you would want people that want to contribute to that, and understand that there's a balance between being a disciplinarian or setting out boundaries for inmates and trying to help them, making them kind of motivating them to want to do something else with their lives.
right.
And and I can't say we always hit the nail with our selection, but when you start with that idea, you have it's a bit easier to kind of find the method of selecting people.
Right. So you're looking for professionals, people who can control themselves and have a professional outlook. And I remember when I was there, how impressed I was by you guys trying to not trigger people into a fight or flight reaction, like not tucking your pants into boots and not carrying a bunch of stuff on your belt that was like you're going to war. And I remember one of the captains saying that if that's the message you give, you're going to end up in a war situation, like a big fight, and that avoiding provoking aggression, kind of
Yeah.
de-escalating continuously.
That is, it runs through everything, because if you have like more of an army uniform, then we could quite possibly change our uniform. I've been to different correctional facilities, different places in the world, and I see people wearing like camouflage pants as their uniform. Then you're in a war. Uh, we have our uniforms are quite similar to the police uniforms. It's the same producer, so they're not neutral. We're quite obvious that we're in uniform, and that we have some kind of power there. But the thing with the belt, if you have a lot of stuff in your belt, it looks like you're prepared for everything. We are prepared for everything, but I'll keep more stuff maybe in my pockets that is important, like gloves and stuff like that. And then how I walk, how I talk, if I'm in a conversation, how I position myself. If an inmate is sitting, is it possible for me to sit down? Because then I'm not standing above him and talking down, but I'm at the same level. So all these things are kind of things that you train on in the
Right.
academy.
Right. And that is more like, if I may say so, like that's kind of deeper emotional intelligence skills about what am I communicating to people through my body language, through my facial expression. And could I be lighting a match to a gasoline can without even realizing it? And maybe out of fear or whatever. And yes. And then these things feed on themselves and they keep perpetuating. So, yes. And you guys take time to talk to people, which is, again, a staffing issue, which we want to get to right now, which is the biggest challenge in the US, that you have enough people to be able to focus on human interactions as
Well,
opposed to just orders.
that's both true and untrue.
Okay.
Our model says that we need to have 1.1 staff for every inmate. That's staff. That's not like officers. That's with administration and warden and everything, and cleaners and whatever. But we have our units are quite small. Oslo prison, where I usually work, there's 20 inmates on each floor and 2 officers.
1 to 10.
Yeah. So and our new units have 1 to 12 on the floor, but they have more support function, which means there's more staff in the new units, but less correctional officers.
More staff, like other, like counselors,
Like
teachers.
environmental workers, social workers, uh, work programs, staff from work programs, school, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the total number is still pretty high of staff
Well, it's.
doing
I
it.
think most people here will think it's fantasy numbers in US.
Right. When we have one with 120, yes. Yes, or one
Yeah.
to 200.
But what
Go
I
ahead.
would have to say is that the last 2 years we've lost about, I think, around 15 or 17% of our correctional officers have quit their job. So
Wow.
our staffing levels are going down quite fast right now. That, of course, is a reaction to we've started in quite a large scale to use different forms of punishment, like the electronic tagging. So a lot of the inmates that used to stabilize the environment on the inside, they're now outside, electronically tagged. So the people we have inside are more violent and no inmates to stabilize them. So there's more violence, there's more threats, and a lot of correctional officers, okay, this is not what I signed up for. I'm not doing this anymore. In addition, the pay has not increased too much, so people would rather do other stuff and get paid less.
Easier, less dangerous.
Yeah,
Yes, so you're facing that hard reality as your population shifts, and then you have the
yeah.
severely mentally ill too, and that's
In
another.
addition, yeah.
Yes.
I think around 90% of the inmates in the high security prisons has some form of diagnosis of a psychiatric diagnosis.
Wow. So
Yeah,
you do become like psychiatric hospitals too. So there is a struggle even in Norway where we think it's like the heavenly version of prison systems. Even there you have some pretty tough conditions you're facing
I
for your
think well,
staff.
the idea of corrections or incarceration is quite toxic at its basis. So no matter what you do, there's going to be issues and problems and with violence and threats, but it's how you handle it that's a bit different.
Right, right. I remember when we were at the academy and we had the use of force instructor
Yeah,
tell us what he did. And from what I remember, he said that most of the time they just spend a lot of time outside the cell talking to the person, talking them
yeah.
down and finding out what's really bothering them. And when they could take, he says, I have all day. I can sit here all day and talk to this guy.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
can lock down the prison just to talk to the inmate all day. As long as there's progress and we can see him calming down, we'll keep it on lockdown just to make sure that we can handle the situation without using force. But if there's no progress, we'll just go in and grab it.
Yep. Yep, yep, yeah. So you don't go to the last option first. You have several other options that are less aggressive.
The law forbids us to use more force than necessary. So if we can handle a situation by talking to them, we have to.
And that's
So, but
ingrained.
yeah,
Right.
but this also means that you every day you train in de-escalating.
Wow.
So it's always at the forefront of how to resolve
Wow.
this problem.
So you need a huge amount of those interpersonal, emotional intelligence, social intelligence skills, and a lot of patience and rest for your staff so they can come in rested and refreshed and not exhausted, and have no patience.
That is
So
true.
yeah, so
So
you
I usually use this comparison to when you're on a flight and you have the flight attendant saying that put on your own oxygen mask before you help any other. Yeah, so it's the same with working in corrections. If you're not well yourself, you're not going to do a good job. So you need to take care of yourself first, and then you can help.
right, and that of course is pretty hard to do in the U.S. with a lot of the mandatory overtime. Do you have mandatory overtime or do you have more elective, voluntary
It's
overtime?
well, by law, all overtime in Norway is mandatory, but it is you can decide yourself if you want it or not.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
combination. That's
Yeah,
unusual.
so it's basically the people who work overtime do it because they want the money.
Okay.
Mm.
And are there limits to how much you let them work versus?
Yeah, maximum 200 hours a year.
Wow. How does that sound, guys? We'll
That's a
hear about it
week, yeah,
later.
in the US, I think.
It's like almost 200 a month. Oh my goodness, I don't want to think about that right now. It's brutal.
So you
Um,
can think a work year for a correctional officer working a shift plan is 1,846 hours. And then if he maxes his overtime, he gets 2,046 hours a year. if you do the math, you can see that the working conditions are not bad.
No, and then you have
But
mandatory vacation time, if I remember correctly. You have to take time off.
5 weeks a year.
Listen to that, guys. I mean, yeah. Is it true that are you still doing it that three of them had to be consecutive, like back to back?
Yeah, in the summertime, you have to do 3 weeks, 3 consecutive weeks between June 15th and September 1st, I think.
And what's the rationale behind that?
That's because everybody needs to get away from work. Uh,
Okay.
and it's also an obligation so that no employer or no manager can say that you have to work through the summer. It's both it's something they can mandate you to do, but it's also a right you have to have 3 weeks. So
Wow.
even if you use your 5 weeks of vacation time in the spring, you can still do 3 weeks in midsummer because that's a right you have.
Do you get
Uh,
paid for those 3 weeks or not?
no,
No.
if you spent your 5 weeks, you don't get paid for them, but you have the
That's
right to have 3 weeks.
wow. That's unreal because what I'm thinking is if somebody's revved up, like we see people in the United States stressed chronically and really revved up, you need that time to for your body to really calm down. One weekend, 1 week, one long weekend is not going to do it. You're still hot, inflamed. But having 3 weeks, a stretch of 3 weeks is unbelievably effective in terms of really resting and getting refreshed. So you guys are taking care of your staff.
Well, I think they could do better, but then again, when I talk to people from different countries, I think yeah, uh, the unions. This is rights fought through by the unions on a national level. So we've done okay over a good period of time. Right now, our problem is that a lot of people are quitting, so it kind of it means that a lot of people are working understaffed, and they
Wow.
don't and the pay is not good. So a lot of people are doing the overtime, and they don't get the rest periods that they need, which again means that they're tired, they're not good when they're coming into work. So we have a lot of people on sick leave as well.
Wow. Wow. And that all starts, like you said, with pay and then having a more violent population to deal with that makes it unappealing because people feel they cannot help them. They cannot help as much.
Yeah. So the difference now is 10 years ago, if you had a 15-year-old, he would think through it quite a few times before he attacks an officer. Today, he'll stab you if you turn your back on him. So things have changed a lot in Norway.
Okay. Wow. So you guys have to adapt and address those changes if you are to stay doing very well.
Yeah, we need to kind of evolve our toolbox, how to handle stuff. But we do.
Yep. Do you want to give us an example about how you guys problem solve around these new problems that are popping up?
Well, right now we're looking at a multiple problem, like the fact that we're having less correctional officers out there. We need more like hands-on tools to make sure you're safe. And tools are not always something you want to use, but it gives the staff a feeling of security.
Right.
We're looking into a test project with the tasers um, on in different parts of high security prisons where the most violent offenders are. To have it not for the officers to wear it or anything, but to have it like stored in the because we don't have tasers at all in the prisons today. We have OC spray and pepper spray and stuff like that. But so we're doing that's hands-on. And then what we do if we have we'll do just like lockdown situation on different type of inmates. We'll say, okay, this door, to open this door, we'll need to have 4 officers here. We'll do what they do in a psychiatric ward. We'll shield the inmates. That means that we'll just put on a lot of staff and we'll just walk around him in a circle to make sure he can't attack anybody. And he'll try 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, but after 3 times he'll understand that he's not going anywhere. So, and then we use the import model that I'm going to talk about, because we have health workers from the municipality or county that works in our prisons. There'll be specialist psychologists and stuff like that. So we'll get them in to talk to them and find out, is this person healthy enough to be in prison? Or should he be at a psychiatric ward? Could we help him? Could we address the anger issues? We'll do stuff like that. But the quickest fix around a violent inmate is to make him see that he's not allowed to do it, and it's not going to help him anything. So,
and are they in their own room? And somebody was asking about cells earlier. Are they in their own room, or are they in another, like another place of the facility?
No, we'll have different units in the facilities that are specially equipped to house those kind of inmates. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll move them if we have one on an ordinary unit and we start seeing the signs that here's some issues, we'll get in the psychiatrist, and if they concur that okay, here's one to watch out for, we'll just move him to a different unit where we have more means to address the issue. But we'll use a combination of human contact and like the more hands-on tools like tasers and OC spray and stuff like that, which again, I need to underline it, we'll try not to use it. It's a last resort kind of thing, and 90% of the time it just it decreases the violence just by knowing that we have the opportunity. It also boosts the security, the feeling of security for the staff,
and sets the limits with their incarcerated person. And what I was, and I remember when I was there at Holden, that the warden said that you guys would keep somebody in restricted whatever isolation for only as long as they calm down, and then you get them out of there. You wouldn't keep them there for days on end if they calm down.
So we have different kind of, in a high security facility, we will have an ordinary room, and then we'll have the units with the more violent offenders or incarcerated persons. And if you're in an ordinary unit, first step is to move you to the unit with higher staffing levels and where the more violent incarcerated people are. If you keep acting up there, we'll use like it's basically isolation rooms, but the law says that if we're moving somebody into that room, it has to be because they're a threat to themselves or a direct threat to other inmates or staff. So they have to do something to get there. We can't just put them in there. And then if they keep hurting themselves in that room, we'll move them to a strap bed. But if you go into first the isolation room or the strap bed, you'll have on the strap bed there will be two officers there all the time. In addition, there will be a doctor or a nurse looking in on you a couple of times a day. In the isolation room, you're required to have a doctor see you every 24 hours. And if as soon as they're calmed down, we'll move them out. And on the way up, we'll just say, okay, now you see the consequences of acting out. Don't do it again, please. And if there's no if the inmate is if there's no psychiatrics at play here, they will understand that sitting down on the isolation ward is not it's not where you want to be, so they just stop. But of course, if you're mentally ill, you won't understand it, and that's one of the things we're most criticized for, because we're not psychiatric facilities. So we, in short periods, we can up our staffing levels to handle people like this. But if we have 10, 15, 20, 25 at the same time, we're not gonna, it's not possible. So then we're gonna have to use the isolation ward. We're gonna have to use the strap bed more than we want to.
Right. And then maybe hopefully get some people at the psych ward where they really belong. A forensic unit maybe at a
Yeah,
psychiatric hospital.
the problem is that the on-call psychiatrist at a psych ward only needs to observe the patient for 5 minutes to decide if he's sick or well. And if you're not in an acute state of psychosis, you're going straight back to prison.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think this is quite a universal problem. It's not just Norwegian, but it kind of it's one of the biggest problems we have, actually.
Okay. Dealing with the mentally ill when they really don't belong in severely mentally, they don't belong in a prison, or they get yes, they become dangerous there. Well, yes. And you're not set up for that. So what we've gotten so far that we can implement here is education, the selection, of course, which is tougher when you have very few people apply. And on the list that we have here that I gave you, which one would you like to address next? Is like the contact officers person?
If you want to talk about the easy things to implement in the US,
yes,
I think the overlapping shifts
yes,
is a smart place to start, because
okay.
We'll have the 24 hours divided into three. We'll have a morning shift, we'll have an afternoon shift, and we'll have a night shift. During the summer, we'll have a day shift and a night shift, just because people like to work long shifts in summer so they get more time off. Because in Norway, it's only nice weather from May until August. So that's important to remember. But the shifts will overlap. So if I start working at 7 in the morning and my shift runs until 3 in the afternoon, the people who are taking over for me will start working probably around 2 or 2:30. So what we'll use that time for is talk about what happened through the day, if there's any special needs that have arisen through the day, and tell them everything that's going on. We'll give them like we'll talk about the temperature of the unit. Is everybody in a good place? Who's in a bad place? What do you need to look out for? Who needs to be addressed for their behavior, like stuff like that. And if there's been any special incident, then we'll talk about the incident as well. And like I said, overlapping shifts, yeah. And once a week you'll have an overlap of like in Oslo, we'll have 3.5 hours of overlap once a week. So we'll use those everybody when they report to their afternoon shifts. They'll start their shifts either with training or with yeah, could be some new stuff coming out that we need to learn about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So they take 3.5 hours during their shift. So do they have a longer shift or is it the same
Yeah,
length? It's just
yeah,
shorter.
no, you'll have a longer shift once a week,
Okay.
just to make sure that you're updated on everything, that you're trained in like the physical techniques that we use. We'll have a heart and lung rate, just to make sure that everybody knows it. We'll look at the computer systems, that everybody's updated on everything that's going on there.
Wow.
Uh, so training will be for about 3 hours or 2.5 hours, and then they'll come to their unit and they'll get the overlap from the morning shift.
That is absolutely such quality control to make sure everybody's up to date and know what they're doing. And wow,
Well,
keeping.
look at it like going through a minefield.
Mm,
Would you want to start walking without a map or with a map?
right. If you want to save your feet, at least their legs, yes. Yeah, and not just diving in. And if you could add here, do you guys debrief on how somebody handled there is, let's say, a confrontation, a difficult situation, a dangerous situation? Do you debrief with your team members about how that was handled, or if it was handled properly, what else could have been done, room for improvement, what was done great? Do you review any of those
Yeah,
like
so
incidents?
yeah, so there's a divide here because like smaller incidents, smaller quarrels or stuff like that, you'll talk to your partner with just right then and there. But the bigger incidents, if we have to go into a room and get somebody out or something, or if there's a big if there's something that happens, if an inmate attacks an officer or something, everybody involved will lock down the prison, and everybody involved will be summoned to a debrief. We'll walk through the entire incident. First of all, we'll walk through the log, and everybody will get like it's like time management, because if you're in a violent situation, time slows down. So if you feel threatened, it may only happen in the span of 7 seconds, but it feel like 7 hours, right?
Mm,
So when you're in that debrief room and the operational the op central guy will read through the log, and you'll hear that okay, it only took 7 seconds before I got assistance. So I didn't go through a prolonged period where somebody beat me or something. Only 7 seconds was the actual threat. We'll walk through the log, see what happened when, and then we'll talk about how we handle it. And it's going to be brutally honest. So
mm,
if somebody did something that they shouldn't do, they're going to hear it.
mm,
And then the senior officer in charge will make sure that the debrief is done, and he will also make sure that the main characters in the like assault will get a phone call, and is followed like for at least the following week, that people kind of check in on them and talk to them. So nobody kind of, okay, this is my last shift for a week and I'm off, I'm going fishing. No, that won't happen.
you'll keep tabs on them, you'll keep in contact with them, see how they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. And
So
if they need somebody to talk to, either a senior officer or somebody from management will reach out to them within 24 hours.
Great. So you maintain that social network underneath people, the safety net underneath people socially, the close connections.
Yeah, we
Yes.
kind of force a social network on them, even ones that don't have it, when they end up in an incident like that.
As a protective thing, to preventative.
Yeah.
All right. So from any other, as we're getting close to our hour before we take the questions, because there have been some really amazingly good questions. Any other of the ones on my list? Anything else that you think would be easily translatable and transplantable into the United States systems? Any other ones? Some of we're doing already, inmate activities. Only you guys do a lot more of that, and school. But anything else on that list that you want to
I
talk
think
about?
like inmate housing. I also think it's
Mm,
easy for you to do something, and you don't have to go from to over to single rooms or anything, but to do like a pre-selection of who who lives with who, and what kind of crimes are they here for. That's an easy fix to think about, and but most importantly, I think uh, last time I was in not last time, but last time I was in a prison in the U.S. The officers, only some of them wore uniforms.
what were the rest wearing? Street clothes?
Khaki pants and hoodies and stab vests.
Oh,
So, and that kind of fascinated me
because
because
what did it mean to you? What was it that struck you about that?
the first thing I thought is that there's a divide in the staff here. Somebody's more important than somebody else. Now, my background as a correctional officer, I think that everybody that works in a prison should wear a uniform. I don't care what your training is, but if you work in a prison, you should wear a uniform because uniforms means unity. Uh, and everybody that works in a prison is on one team. And if we don't promote that idea, we risk divides in different, just not just between officers, but between different kind of
Mm.
branches of
Hmm.
staff. But that's not everybody in Norway is agrees with me there. And then
Would
there's,
you?
yeah,
Let me
no,
ask you
please.
really quickly. So, would you like to see social workers, I know the medical staff are coming from the community, so they don't have to wear anything special.
They
But
wear
like,
uniforms.
they do? Okay.
Yeah,
And
not
vocational
not
teachers?
correctional
Mm-hmm.
uniforms, but they were like nurses' uniforms and stuff like that.
Okay. And then
Uh,
you have vocational teachers. You have all kinds of trainers.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
they are in civilian clothes,
Okay.
nothing. But I think that we have a issue with like a lot of our facilities, like mid-level management and up administrators, stuff like that. It kind of appears that there's status in not wearing a uniform in a prison, and
Mm,
I think it should be the other way around. So, but that's my personal idea,
yeah.
not the DOC's. They're more going the other way around. Uh, but there are a couple of things that I saw on your question marks. That's the three last markers you
Mm-hmm.
put down. The aesthetics, the decorative arts, natural lighting, nature. Like you've been to Halden. There's
Mm-hmm.
trees, there's walking paths. Um, and it's important if you've locked yourself in your house an entire weekend and just the feel of going outside and seeing the air and seeing like trees and plants and grass and stuff like that. That's medicine for your mind easily. And a lot of inmates, all almost all the decorations and arts in Norwegian prisons are made by inmates while serving their time, because a lot of them are quite creative. So why don't let them do that as an activity, so they can make the rooms look better, and we also can make them do something they already know how to do.
Yes. Yes, I remember when I was there and the American delegation were really worried. Like they said, well, there are all those trees. What if an inmate climbs up that tree? And I remember the warden said, when he gets hungry enough, he'll come down.
Yeah,
And it was just that response. When he gets hungry enough, he'll come down. We don't have to go up there and try to get him down. We'll leave him up on the tree as long as he wants to stay on the tree
yeah.
till he's
And
hungry, or maybe he has to go
this
to the bathroom or something.
this actually happened in Oslo prison once. Uh, so an inmate climbed a tree. That's in the middle of Oslo, the city. So there were only two trees there, but an inmate climbed up, and they just left him there until like late evening, and it started to get quite cold. So eventually he climbed down and just said, "I want to go inside." Now, of course, the following morning they cut down the tree. And he had to answer to every other inmate there that kind of liked the tree. Why? Yeah, it seldom happens that somebody climbs a tree. What's the
Well,
point? You're not getting out of there. You're just stuck in a tree. Might as well, might as well be in your room.
right. Or it's an exercise, maybe, but yeah, you want to come down. Yes,
But
I
in their
suppose.
rooms, they have TVs, they have PlayStations. Who wants to sit up in a tree?
Yeah. And somebody asked earlier about cells. So you don't call them cells, you call them rooms, right?
Well, we call them cells.
Okay.
But management and administrators will call them rooms, yeah.
And but
But
they're rooms, they're not with bars on they're not hard metal doors, or are they?
there's both. We have the newer facilities have a custom door made out of wood that is actually better than metal doors, and more and it takes like, yeah, one of our biggest problems is inmates putting or starting fires in their cells. So, but these special wooden doors, they actually withstand the heat better than the metal doors. But
Wow.
in the old facilities, we have metal doors, but they're closed doors with a hatchet on it, so we can look inside if we want to. Um, and in the room, there's a bed, there's a desk, and there's a TV. And in the newer facilities, they also have a toilet, of course. But in the newer facilities, they have like a bathroom corner with a toilet and a shower and a sink.
And that's part of your normality principle, trying to make it as close as the if you were
Yeah,
living on the outside.
but it's also efficient. Like in Oslo prison, they don't have showers in their rooms, so I have to spend all day putting up a list and making sure that people get to use the shower. Because there's in my floor there's 23 inmates and one shower.
Yep. And actually, these numbers probably sound very good compared to some of the US numbers, but yes.
Yeah, but then we have to use a lot of time on the
Mhm.
showering and stuff. If they have a shower in their room, we don't have to think about it.
Right, absolutely. And there's no danger of them assaulting each other in the shower either, or
Not in
something
a
like that.
single room.
Yep, yep. Wow. Well, thank you. So before we take questions, any final thought about? Oh, there was. Let me ask you this. I know people have, and Greg Morton told me the story where there were flowers outside in the flower bed, and well, I heard that they take them out because people put drugs there, and so they don't want them to be placed where they deposit drugs. So how do you deal with that?
Well, um, an inmate will always find a place to deposit drugs. If it's in a flower bed or an airing vent, they will always find some place to put it because they have all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to think about where to put drugs and contrabands and stuff like that. So we just try to make things easy to check, easier to search. That's the main idea. And then
Okay.
we we have quite an extensive use of cameras in our facilities.
All
So
right.
you are always on camera somewhere. There's hardly any blind spots.
Okay. And you have the sniffing dogs too for drugs.
Yeah. So we'll use the dogs. We don't have too many of them, and like a dog and its handler will cover multiple facilities.
Wow. It was, yeah, because dogs will catch some things that nothing else will catch.
Of course.
So, okay. May you multiply your use of sniffing dogs. So,
We're
my
looking
goodness.
into that actually. We're trying to build up our use of dogs.
Yes. Because they also have a calming effect with the staff, at least. There'll be like there's something about dogs, unless you're terribly allergic to them, that is very calming and positive. So they have a dual role that
Yeah,
they
but
play.
they're also just a part of the security. You always have to do a manual check as well because dogs, just like people, can do a bad job sometimes. You have
You
to keep in
overwork
mind
them.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, Great, great. My goodness, we have a tremendous number of very, very good questions, and I don't know where to start because there are so many of them. And wow. Um, so let me just grabbing one about the overlapping shifts because we talked about that as being a something that can be done here, and I know it used to be done sort of, but it wasn't quite the same with roll call. Are they the weekly trainings and the overlapping shifts? Are they seen as overtime? Are they paid as
no,
overtime?
they're in your shift plans. So in average, a correctional officer in Norway will work 1,846 hours a year, which is roughly 35 and a half hours a week. So we'll make shift plans. You'll go through both morning shift, afternoon shifts, and night shift and weekend shift. You'll work probably around every third weekend. So we'll make shift plans with longer shifts on one day in the week to make sure that both the morning shift and the afternoon shift that day will have longer shifts, so we can have that 3.5 hours or something. This
Okay,
this kind of this is not every facility that does it this way, but my facility does it like that, and we'll have. The shifts will overlap in the shift plan, so there's no need for overtime or
awesome.
anything.
Great, great, great. That simplifies things. And there was a question about do you allow firearms in your facilities? Like, do you have staff that are armed if there was a need for the use of a firearm?
No,
No. Okay.
but
Uh,
remember, this is Norway. Not even the police are armed.
wow.
Well, actually, it's a new law now, so I think from July 1st, the police will be armed. But that's to do with they passed a new bill because of the constant threat from Russia and stuff like that right
Mm-hmm.
now. So
Wow.
but
Okay.
up until July 1st, the police have not. It's not common to arm the police in Norway.
So obviously, and you have such small numbers, you don't have like hundreds of inmates in the yard.
No, my facility is a maximum of 65 in the
Wow.
yard at one time. So we'll do it in turns.
65 at a time in the yard. So a
Yeah.
lot easier to manage if you have a bunch of staff around, almost one on one
Yeah,
or 1 to 10.
I think when we made the number 65, it used to be 75. And then we had an incident where somebody miscounted, and we had 79 inmates in the yard, and they tried to start a riot. So we just gathered up 20, 25 officers, and we ran out into the yard. Um, and we used like the ASP batons. We didn't hit anybody. We just ran out, made a lot of noise running out, and everybody went to the ground. So then we said, okay, this was lucky, but we're not putting ourselves in that situation again. So we're doing like a constant risk assessment on everything.
Which is again prevention, which is something we can do in the United States because a lot
Anybody
less
can do that.
mess. Yes, a lot messier, a lot in the long run, a lot cheaper than cleaning up the mess. And
Yeah. So think about it. I'm willing to bet that every correctional officer in the U.S. does risk assessment every day without thinking about it.
wow,
They do it when they work, but they also do it when they're not working. Like if I walk into a restaurant, I will immediately try to find a table where I can have my back towards the wall and I can see the entrance. I know this could also be the short way to a PTSD
mm,
thing, but it's just I can sit with my back facing the door as well. But my natural instinct is to find that because I know I can't assess all risks in a restaurant, but I can see it coming if I'm in that position. So, and I think most people in law enforcement do that just on instinct.
hmm so you're alert and vigilant, but you don't overreact. You try to not overreact. Have you had to let people go because they overreacted, got heavy-handed with
Uh,
your population?
y- yeah, we've had some incidents, but not too many. I think I've encountered one or two incidents in my 25 years.
Wow. Well, you
That's
let
not to
somebody
say
go.
that's not to say there no, we didn't let them go, but we've have had a couple of incidents with people being a bit heavy-handed.
Mm,
But there's probably more, but not at my facility. But what we do is we'll use every manager or middle management has an obligation to kind of I'm looking for a word here to talk to their staff members and kind of coach them. And we'll do a temporary reassignment and put you somewhere else, and we'll try to look into why did this happen. So it could be stress, it could be work-related stress, it could be that this guy is going through a divorce or something. So we'll try and just facilitate and make sure that he can work through what maybe say that you need to go on sick leave. And we'll need to address this at some point. But right now, we'll need to make sure that you're okay.
wow.
And in some
Okay.
cases, if it's severe, well, yeah, they'll lose their jobs. But the two cases that I know of, they're still working today.
Great. So it's an educational opportunity. Train them more deeply, get
Yeah,
them to be better officers by learning from mistakes. And I'm sure other people around them learn too, vicariously from listening to the whole situation of what happened. Yes, and one more thing about boundaries. I know it's a concern always, trying to balance the social worker with a disciplinarian. Uh, how many staff do you have that you lose because they crossed the line and broke the law by getting involved, like bringing contraband for the inmates or whatever, getting sexually involved with them romantically, whatever? Do you have much
of
of
course.
that?
It's important to say that 95% of our inmates are male.
Hmm.
So only, or between 93 and 95%. So between 5 and 7% of our inmates are female. And I think during my 25 years, I have at least worked with 15 that have started like a relationship with inmates. Just top of my head. So yeah, that is a challenge. But also remember that 52% of our trainees are women.
Yep.
So there's a ratio there that some will argue is quite wrong. But when you do testing, both physical and academic, and you do a lot of academic training to be a correctional officer. I think me as a man just have to admit that women usually are smarter than us. So they'll do better in the
Like
academic.
de-escalation or academic stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So more of the females will go through the academy, and they will be better because they will be better at all the theoretical in the academy.
So they
Um,
make the cut. They make the cut, so end up hiring more women because they're doing better academically, and maybe also some of their interpersonal skills maybe come more
yeah. So
naturally.
our age limit is you have to be you can apply until the year you turn 20. And what we see now is we used to have like an average age of a trainee around 29 years. Now it's
Wow.
around 23.
Whoa.
And a young woman of 23 is way more mature and reflected than a man of 25. Yeah,
Okay.
and like you said, they have better intersocial skills and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So they beat the tests or they do the tests better.
Yeah.
Where the men will shine is in the gym, the physical stuff, uh, and then again, we're looking for a balance, not just in the individual, but in the group.
Right. Your population of your staff, your employees.
Yeah,
All right. So let me see here. We have several questions about, and I know you allow for religious observances for different religions. I know you do that from what I remember, and there was a chapel there for different faiths. And so, would you like to say a little bit about that? Because we have quite a bit of that going on in the United States, but um, about religious observances allowing for different faiths to practice, people of different
uh,
faiths to practice different things.
you can practice whatever religion you want in a Norwegian prison. What we will have is the Norwegian church will usually assign a priest to each facility. And in the larger cities, we'll get in contact with an imam, and both these will kind of assist people of different faiths as well.
Like chaplains. Okay.
Yeah,
And somebody asked a question about your juvenile system, and I know you talked about 15-year-olds that are much more violent than they used to have before. What about your juvenile system? Is it under the same umbrella of the?
yeah.
Okay.
It's usually like our largest facility has its own juvenile unit, and it's a capacity of 6
Wow.
inmates. Yeah,
Wow.
so if you want to talk staffing levels, they have an operational staff of 33.
With 6, and I see people
Well,
laughing,
they're all they're all in shift plans. So with 6 inmates, there'll be 8 or 9 staff there,
wow. So talk about loading the dice in the
and
favor of
yeah,
rehabilitation and
that's
safety. Go ahead.
yeah, but that's 15 to 18 years. If you're younger than 15, you can't go to prison.
Wow. So okay, so it's community based. Whatever they do with the younger than 15 is
Child
community.
services, stuff like that.
Wow.
before
Wow.
15.
Wow.